Hello, everyone. We'll get started in just a minute, letting some others join. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending CRMC's session on creating a strategic PeopleSoft applications roadmap. It's part of our Get Current series webinar. And I'll be walking through these slides along with my co-presenter, Cameron. A few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded, so you'll be able to take a look at this or share it with your colleagues afterwards. We will be going through some polling questions, and you'll be able to provide us with some insight on where your organization is at as far as road mapping and the like. And then we'll have some time towards the end to do some Q&A to allow for additional questions. I will say there's a chat function and QA function as part of this webinar, so feel free to use the Q&A portion. Cameron will be fielding those questions and answers during the call. He may also interrupt me during the call and mention anything that's relevant that he can't answer during the call, and we can cover that then. So I'm hoping
Justin, let me take you up on that offer right now. You're actually displaying your presentation mode. So if you want to switch your screen to the full screen presentation, you're actually showing your presenter mode right now. Okay. I thought I'd just take you up on that offer about the interruption.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Cameron.
Yeah.
So are you seeing my
No, on the sharing, go to share screen, and then you'll want to share your other screen where you're in full screen mode.
Thank you, Cameron.
I think if you just downside, it looks like it's behind this one.
How about now, Cameron?
There we go. That's good. Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, everyone. All right, we'll go ahead and jump right into the slides if it's not locked. Okay, sorry about this. It's now locked my screen. Okay, I'd first like to start off discussing a little bit about CRMC. We are everything PeopleSoft, right? So it's a variety of different applications within PeopleSoft. We work in a number of different areas for PeopleSoft: managed services, training, shifting to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, as the first bullet point indicates. Just a number of different things, including. Also includes project management, program management, obviously road mapping, as would be indicated by this session today, just a long list of things. So this slide does not indicate an exhaustive list of everything CRMC does as it relates to PeopleSoft. We encourage you to go to our website and you'll be able to get some more information. And of course, you can always contact Cameron or myself or anyone else within the CRMC team to learn more about what we do and how we can help your organization with your road mapping or just managing PeopleSoft systems. We've been around since 2004. This indicates 15 is actually 17 years in business, supporting PeopleSoft users. Our knowledge base with the folks within CRMC goes way beyond 17 years. Most of us have been on it well over 20 years working with PeopleSoft, so a lot of core knowledge there throughout history. And even though we only have offices out of the US, we do have clients abroad that we work with on their PeopleSoft projects and managed services. I am Justin Willis, Director of Managed Services for CRMC. I'm joined today by Cameron McClurg. He'll be walking us through a few of the slides as we proceed through. So today's webinar, the intended audience is for, of course, PeopleSoft users, both functional and technical, so relative to everyone, and it's relative to the end users, and it's relative to those who are in C and VP levels that need to do proper planning for their PeopleSoft applications. So very important topic for everyone. PeopleSoft, today's focus as far as content will mostly be on ERP, but it is PeopleSoft application agnostic, so relative to HCM, EPM, a variety of different applications within the PeopleSoft library. And of course, hopefully, if you're on this call, you're interested in staying current. You either are or interested in staying getting current. So very important in today's environment, and not to mention the importance of having all the newest functionality and fixes really related to those updates in People Tools and images. Quick plug for some of the training. We obviously do a number of webinars, free webinars like this one today. We also hold formal training sessions that you're welcome to sign up for. A few focus trainings are Kibana. DCustomization is very popular, parts 1 through 4, as you can see further down, and even lease admin. So a lot of great sessions there. We also do tailored training as well. So again, all things PeopleSoft, soup to nuts. We live and breathe PeopleSoft. So go check that out. Okay, so we're going to do some survey questions right now to learn more about our audience, and the presentation somewhat set, but we can tailor the conversation as our audience would be most interested in. So Cameron, you want to kick off the first question?
Yep, great. So first question, sort of, what PeopleTools release, and we understand some people are on both HCM and financials, even potentially Campus. So go ahead and select, if you have multiple versions here of PeopleTools, go ahead and select those. So we see answers coming in here across the board, and that's good. There will be, obviously, if you aren't on what we would consider a current release, which is 858 and 857, there'll be opportunities for you'll need to be considering getting on to 857 at a minimum, but at this point, we are actually recommending people go to 858. All right, so let's go ahead and close that and take a look at those responses. So a lot of people in 857, 856, some people in 858, and then still others that are below 856. So obviously, very relevant for those of you that are in 856 or 85 or below to be considering this as part of your roadmap.
Right.
All right, so let's go to the next question for HCM. If you are on 9.2, what image are you on in HCM? And go ahead and, again, if you are on HCM, go ahead and answer that. See some answers rolling in. And of course, there's a combination of tools and image release here that will allow you to take advantage of all the latest features. So we like to see people above 31 in terms of being able to take advantage of all the great features. Let's take a look at what our answers are here. So we have a distribution. A lot of people still in the early 20s, some in the later 20s. You know, a lot of new things came in above 31, specifically chatbots and some other cool features that are only released beyond 31. So again, part of your roadmap taking consideration of getting current. All right, same question for financials. Let's take a look at that one. Let's see if anybody's actually on the cutting edge on 34 or higher on the financial side. All right, see a lot of folks actually coming in with some of the later images on financials, and that's fantastic. So looks like we'll go ahead and close the poll here, and looks like we've got some good distribution here in the upper ranges, so 31 through 33, and then 34 higher. That's fantastic. A lot of great features you can take advantage of. A lot of people get current, but then don't take advantage of the features. We really encourage you guys to consider, if you're not familiar with the Cumulative Feature Overview tool on PeopleSoft on the Oracle website, definitely check that out. You'll be able to take a look. And oftentimes what I do is we'll work with our customers to look at what they have access to on their current version versus looking at future versions. A lot of times people don't realize what's already there, and so that's something to consider. All right, last question, sort of more appropriate for the conversation today. Let's take a look at, in terms of roadmap, how would you, and you can select all that apply here, which ones would you consider are true for your organization? So you have a formal roadmap that you follow and you keep it up to date, and you know, communicate that out, socialize that to maybe a steering committee or something like that, or a user community. Perhaps you have a focus group that you regularly work with to seek input and keep that stakeholder group involved. Let's say you actually take the next level and have a champions team that actually, or maybe SMEs that actually work on your projects and lead the way in your projects. Or kind of flip side, you need to form a focus group or champions group, and something that you wanted to do. Or in some cases, you seek outside advice on your roadmap. And go ahead and select everything that applies for you. You can answer multiple, and you'll see some answers coming in here. Let's take a look. All right, so this is a fantastic, so 52% of you have a champions team that lead your way on your project. That's fantastic, best practice for sure. We'd love to see that focus group question a little higher. You have a focus group and you're able to seek input. 14% have that. Certainly bringing people in, SMEs into your projects, fantastic. But when we talk about roadmap's really before you get to the project, right? So how do you really engage your group and your organization to figure out what should be on your roadmap? If this number's pretty low, and maybe that's why you're all here today. That's a good launching point to then talk about how we do that and actually put together roadmaps. So thanks. I'm going to go ahead and close the polls now, and I'm going to kick it back over to you, Justin.
Great. Thanks, Cameron. Yeah, some encouraging results of the polls. I'd say on average, most of you are current. Most of you have, a roadmap footprint and champion. So really great news there. So jumping into the agenda, we'll take a look at an example of a roadmap, but then we'll get into the core of the content for this session, which is the PeopleSoft applications roadmap ingredients, being people, getting the right people, the right stakeholders and SMEs engaged early on in the road mapping process, and then throughout the execution. We'll talk about processes, honing in on and establishing processes that will lead to successful road mapping. We'll also talk about platform. Platform will be a wider discussion. It's both infrastructure, tools. There are a very, very long list of tools within PeopleSoft, and tools that support PeopleSoft. So we're only going to scratch the surface during this session, but it's really amazing. Cameron mentioned, some of the advantages of getting current on the latest images. I mean, there's just some really exciting stuff out there. Unified navigation and notification frameworks and text messaging, and there's just the list is too long. But if you want to learn more about what the latest and greatest is within PeopleSoft and these new images, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. And then we'll talk about next steps and provide some time, as I mentioned, for Q&A. So this is an example of a roadmap. There's a lot of things here, kind of talking points. This is just a sample of what yours might look like. So you have a variety of different projects that you are executing throughout the year. Some of them small. I mean, these are fairly sizable projects, being that they're more than a month long. But some of your smaller projects could be included here. Another thing that could be included in here is any blackout periods where there's competing IT projects going on. So you don't have to stick to PeopleSoft, right? It could be relative to your company, your department, holidays, all types of things. But I've stuck to the project work and the annual requirements. Also, very important to include items like end of support. In this case, this model is based on a client that is on 855, which went out of support in July of 2019. So, excuse me, very important to plug those in, because having this visual it really speaks volumes, especially as you're talking to senior management, you're talking to the folks that decide on budget planning, and even your IT counterparts, right, or business counterparts, saying, just so you know, guys, this is what we're going to be focusing on. Another good outcome of a roadmap is being able to say, hey, like for instance, in the top left, we have segregation of duties and account reconciliation in parallel practically. Those resources are the same. Are they going to be able to do their day-to-day jobs and still do these two projects? Now you can do a full blown resource planning matrix to really identify by individual where their hours are residing, but it's another benefit of having this visual or roadmap, so you can see really where it is, and you can recall it continuously. I would recommend printing it out, putting it on a board, and because it'll come up in discussions all the time. Somebody says, hey, what are we doing next May? I'd like to start this project, and they say, well, there's a bit of a gap during that time, so maybe we can fit it in. So always have it there readily available for discussion points. So really good stuff. Another thing to point out, stabilization after any large effort. You want to leave a gap in between, at least when it involves the same systems and same resources. Leaving that gap in between the end of one and the start of another is best practice here. So a number of things. In general, as far as this roadmap is concerned, this is modeled off of, again, somebody that's on 855, image 26, so quite a bit behind. A little bit beyond what we refer to in the PeopleSoft world as update. It would be more of an upgrade, going from 5.5 to 5.8, and then 26 to I put 38 in there, considering the timeline October-ish to get this started. So it's significant enough to really focus on just the tools and images. And then, as you notice over to the right in this area, we're not only getting current, so we're current as of, let's just say, November 2020, but now we're whatever 9 months in, and we're already kind of a little delayed. We're almost getting on a year outdated on images. So we're going to plug that in here, and not only that, as part of that new effort, we're going to introduce PeopleSoft Test Framework and Training as a Service. I'm sorry, Testing as a Service. So think about that strategically, what makes the most sense, where to plug things off. Obviously, you create one of these and you shift things left and right, you add things, take them out, as it makes sense to your organization. CRMC has gone through obviously many years of these types of projects and road mappings. So we're happy to discuss or review your roadmap, right? And walk through it with you and see if it makes sense and you know, help you with your planning. So yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. Okay, so the building blocks of a roadmap. So very important before you even start and throughout the life cycle of your roadmap, you involve these three pillars, or not pillars, but building blocks. And I'll start with people and then move upwards here. And I also have some additional slides to talk through as we go through these. So for people is the foundation, right? You can't have you can't start anything without the right people. You could have a world-class roadmap that's put together by Harvard and MIT, but it's not going to help you if you don't have the people to execute, right? Starting from creating champions. Really happy to see over half of you have champions within your companies, and you know it's how we're terming them here, but they could just be called SMEs or you know, a variety of other titles. But the main thing is these are individuals that promote PeopleSoft. They promote getting current, they promote rolling out new functionality, and they're really kind of the cheerleaders of PeopleSoft and the efforts you're trying to do there. So great to identify these people, involve them early in the discussions with road mapping. The next item there, engagement and empower. Engagement, it speaks volumes. Empowerment is a nice to have. So at a minimum, have them at the table listening in, but ideally you would empower them to provide content for the roadmap and input for that roadmap, and how things shift left and right, how things are included or excluded in that roadmap. But at a minimum, making sure those champions are involved early and often as you cycle through your life cycle and roadmap. Very, very important. It really engages folks and makes them want to be, you know, the voice of PeopleSoft and all the efforts we do on an annual basis. So very helpful. And then lastly on that list is assigning roles and responsibilities. That has to do with those champions. It has to do with stakeholders. It has to do with anyone involved in all of your various projects. So it's casting a wide net on everyone involved in your PeopleSoft project. So, and I'll show you an example on the next slide of that. The next section or building block is process. You got to have a solid process in order for things to get executed the right way. I've mentioned 3 program or project management aspects that you want to include. There are many more as far as in a project manager's tool set that you'll want to use, depending on the size, right? You might not need all 3 of these for, you know, your smaller projects, but certainly there are aspects like a project plan, or even a project charter that you might want to include in 100% of all efforts, even if it's a 3 or 4 week effort. But the larger efforts, like a full upgrade, as I'm shown before on the roadmap there, certainly you want to use almost all the tools in a project manager's tool set in order to execute that effectively. So we'll go through these 3 things on the preceding slides. Lastly, Cameron will jump in and do platform again, heavy in technology, heavy in functionality, tool set within PeopleSoft, and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure as well. He'll mention that as well. So good stuff there. This first item, this is under the people block, building block. So this is a typical RACI matrix. Hopefully most of you have seen it, but really important, certainly for your larger projects. And it's important for a project manager, such as myself, that I'm able to track, you know, obviously individual tasks, but then who owns it. And then in this case, you know, obviously in the bottom left here, we have the definition. So, you know, who am I talking to on a daily or at least a weekly basis? That's the person responsible, right? So I'm making sure I'm marking them. And if I'm not getting the response I need, you know, I look to talk to the accountable person, the person with an A in there for that activity, and so on. Obviously, you need, you need to have consulted if you need additional clarity on what the task is and how it should be executed. And then of course the I is informed. People at the higher levels usually fall into this bucket. It's folks that want perhaps a weekly or monthly or quarterly update on where we're at with individual tasks or at a project or program level. So really a cool tool to keep track of throughout your projects, your larger projects for sure. The next is change management plan. This is part of the process building block. I just have an excerpt here to show you what it could include. The real crux of this is that you should always keep sight of and keep record of all changes as it's relative to things like scope, right? You try to outline 100% of what is in scope and what is out of scope for all your various projects on your roadmap. But any deviation from that is relative here. And it's not just scope, it's people as well, right? It's for staffing and especially if you say you have a change in project manager or you have a director of accounting that moves to a new role and someone moves in. Very important you put all your changes in here and they're tracked so that it's very visible what's different today as was the case at the beginning of the project. So a really good tool to have on your larger projects. Stakeholders communication plan. You know, we sprinkled a little bit on this general topic when we talked about the RACI, people being informed, but this is a step above that. So your communication plan, like the one example here, is really targeting, you know, at what intervals am I engaging this person, and within those intervals, at what level am I giving them details for the various milestones that we have within a project. So really good stuff here. If you have a group of 20 people, then you would the far right there, you'd have the names. If you have 1,000 people on your project, then you would use groups. You would say C-level or VP level or director level, or you could do departments, right? Accounting and finance and purchasing and the variety of different departments. So you can lump them together for this communication plan, but really good. This is just a sample. There's a lot of different examples out there for communication plans and matrices. So, but again, very, very important to have as part of your execution and of your roadmap. Risk management, I'm sure most or all of you are privy to this, and we kind of live in risk management on a day-to-day basis without actually talking about it directly, right? Because you're always thinking about staffing, whether you're talking about just day-to-day operations or you're talking about staffing for a project or beyond. Really, it's being aware of where your risks lie, and so it's everything, right? It's all resources, both people and systems. So within you'd have a risk management grid or tracking device, whether it's Excel or a project management tool that would indicate all three of these buckets, and all three of these would, regardless of the type of risk, they would all be tracked typically with a probability and a level of impact. So what that speaks to is, what is the probability of this happening? If it's high and the impact is high, then those are things you want to talk about on a weekly basis, or sometimes even a daily basis, and never lose sight of. But if it's a low probability and low impact, then of course those just get recorded. Again, very important you keep a record of these things. I know these project management tools are extra steps, but they, when you execute them and they serve your business, you'll never live without them again. So very important. As far as the three types, there's things about well in advance before you even start the project. They could be part of that risk management matrix. There are predictable risks, things like if you're in hurricane season or in Florida, or your company could be going through some layoffs, or you have a person that is talking about retiring that's pivotal on the project. It doesn't hurt to put that on here. Same thing for end of life servers and things of that nature, things that are on the peripheral of your projects. So really important to put it on here. Even if you think it's not directly pertinent to your project, important to keep these things tracked. And then unpredictable risks, things that are realized that weren't planned ahead. There was nothing foreseeable for these, but they are ultimately going to impact the timeline, the scope, resources of your project. So really important that you keep an eye on the risks related to your projects, and because they'll get lost in emails, and then somebody will say, I told you last month that Bob and Sue were going on a 2-week vacation at Go Live. So important you don't lose sight of that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you can even plug in that example with the 2 weeks of vacation for pivotal people, making sure you throw that in the roadmap as well if it's relative to your roadmap. So now I'll hand it over to Cameron. He's going to go through a very, very limited list of items related to platform and technology, but we're really happy to present to you the long list of things that are available within the latest People tools. And we're not mentioning Kibana, we're not mentioning unified navigation, we're not mentioning so many different things that are exciting with PeopleSoft and the latest tools and images. So, but I'll hand it over to Cameron. Thanks, Cameron.
All right, thanks, Justin. Platform technology, my favorite of the 3 building blocks, the one that tends to get me excited and thinking about the future. So that's always fun. When I think about the platform and technology side of the house, I believe there's 3 things that people need to think about from managing your roadmap, and these are really big picture things, but I really want to focus on these 3 today. And by the way, we didn't really mention, Justin kind of quickly got through our introductions, but I will mention now that Justin and I both come from a very long experience as an internal manager within organizations. So we both joined the consulting world here within the last couple of years. Prior to that, we have many years of working really in your shoes. So really understanding what it takes to put these roadmaps together. We're not just talking about this as a consultant. We've done this. We've been internal to organizations, putting these things together. In fact, Justin and I worked together many years ago at Expedia, where we worked on a roadmap and worked on rolling out functionality. So we practice what we preach here. But anyway, back to the platform technology. All right, so these are the 3 things that I really feel are very important for you to be aware of. First thing is, software in general, applications, it has really converted from standalone, isolated on-prem software that you install and it just sits there until you do something with it, to continual improvement, continual innovation. A lot of software has done that. You look across the board, and there's a big move to SaaS, software as a service, simply because people want to have continual innovation. The idea of continual business value updates to your organization is something that most software packages are moving to. PeopleSoft is no different, and for PeopleSoft, that's the PUM, PeopleSoft Update Manager architecture and methodologies. So that's the first thing to be aware of. We'll talk about that. Second, understanding the move towards cloud architecture and infrastructure. So your on-prem data center, if you have one, is probably going to go away here in the future. I hate to say that for some of you who are very happy with your on-prem data center. You eventually will get to the point where you may have some kind of breach. You may have some kind of lack of functionality. Maybe it just gets really, really expensive. Maybe you determine that it's not in the actual core business of what you do is maintaining data centers. So this type of thing will eventually change for you. And so you need to consider that and think about where that sits on your roadmap. And then lastly, embracing emerging technology. A lot of people are skeptical of emerging technology. I get it. I was skeptical of certain things too. I think as you look at it, and again, think about the roadmap not as what you're going to do in the next 6 months. You know, you need to do that too, but your roadmap really should be multi-year. So, you know, thinking about emerging technology and how that's going to be transformed. Think about things like demographics within your organization and what types of emerging technology is actually going to be requested or demanded. So that's something to think about. So let's talk about each one of these in detail. Justin, looks like I'm not controlling. So if you want to just select the next screen. So talking specifically about the lifecycle management and continual innovation within the Oracle or within the PeopleSoft stack. This is a simple graphic of the PeopleSoft Update Manager. I'm not going to go through the details, but of course we can offline if you'd like to know more about this if you're not on the PUM architecture. But generally, this is what happens at a very high level from managing the PUM architecture. So the big thing here is when you go through this process, you have to apply your customization. So even though you've created your change package, you've installed it in your development environment, one of the last steps here is actually applying your customizations. And this ends up being something that can be quite time consuming. And that can be a challenge. And because of that, it actually leads people down the path of, well, okay, then we're not going to do this continual improvement, continual innovation. We're going to stair step. We're going to set it and then leave it until we have the strength and emotional fortitude to go and do all that big effort again. It's not just customizations. We also have to look at things like testing and then fixing and retesting. This process ends up being really the majority of your time. So that leads to really 90% of your project effort. I mean, this isn't a scientific number or anything, but generally this is true. And if you think about when you've tried to apply images and bring in your customizations and test them and all that, if you think about it, really the process that PeopleSoft delivers or Oracle delivers to you is pretty straightforward. It's your own process where you have to apply customizations and your fixes. That's what takes all the time. And so if you think about that, really what you need to be considering is moving towards a decustomization model. So let's take a look at decustomization. This is a standard methodology that we use to consider how to do decustomization. You have to first inventory your customizations, and that's not a given. Sometimes people don't know what customizations they have. So that's the first thing, inventory your customizations, and there's ways to do that with doing compare reports and that sort of thing. You can compare it to functional requirements and then reconcile them. Are those requirements still needed? For those that are needed, can they be fulfilled with delivered functionality? Yes or no? If they can be delivered or fulfilled with delivered functionality, then great. Just eliminate the customization and move towards delivered functionality. Oftentimes they can't, and you really need to consider this configurable decustomization tool set. That there's multiple items for that. Things like page and field configurator, forms and approvals. There's activity guides. There's all sorts of different kinds of things that you can do to simply move some of those previous customizations to delivered configurations. And here in a second, I'll talk a little bit more about some training we have for this. At times, though, it's not going to be met with configuration, and you do need to put in code, so through App Designer. In those cases, you need to be considering isolated code. Isolated code means not touching delivered objects. So the newest release in 8.5.8 gives even additional features to allow you to isolate your code. Things like pluggable app engine that allows you to plug in your own code into delivered app engines, or things like drop zones or event mapping that allow you to really alter the experience and create a tailored experience for your organization without modifying the underlying PeopleSoft objects. If you do this, you can significantly minimize that time that it takes to keep your environment current and allows you to more frequently take in those updates. So if you can't do all that, then you got customizations, true customizations. That's bad. That's my bad symbol there. All right, so if you want to learn more about this, we're running these classes next week. We're actually going to close up the registration first thing Monday morning. So if you want to sign up, you can get this deck and click on those links. You can use that webinar 10 discount code and get signed up. Like I said, we're going to close up registration first thing Monday. So if you're interested in these topics, so page and field configurator, data masking, drop zones, activity guides, home pages, navigation collections, and dashboards, and fluid forms and approval. These are the 4 topics we'll be doing. There are 4 classes. Each one is 4 hours, so very easy to manage, pretty low price. So feel free to jump in and take some training. All right, moving along. So cloud infrastructure. If you are still on-prem, then you're not taking advantage of the latest features with respect to what Oracle's delivering. So specifically PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. They're putting a lot of effort into managing your PeopleSoft instances and automating that process in their Oracle Cloud infrastructure, cloud infrastructure. You can look at AWS and you can look at Azure. Those are also cloud infrastructure, and that certainly moves you off your on-prem environment and gets you into cloud infrastructure, which allows, again, for elasticity and sizing it to the current needs, not future needs. It can lower your total cost of ownership from an infrastructure perspective. However, as I mentioned, OCI is the only one, Oracle Cloud is the only one that allows you PeopleSoft Cloud Manager, which is its own standalone environment that allows you to manage the other PeopleSoft environments. So it actually manages the lifecycle management of your other environments. It only exists on Oracle Cloud. It won't exist on Azure or AWS. And there's reasons for that, both strategic and technical. But bottom line is, through a subscription process, it can bring in all your updates, and you essentially just push buttons to apply those updates to your environments. There's a lot of great things happening here. Happy to talk to you for an hour just about Cloud Manager. But we won't do that because we have other things to talk about. But bottom line is, we have a program here to help people move on to the cloud, and happy to talk to you about how that all works. All right, lastly, so emerging technology. This is a screenshot of Kibana. Kibana is a delivered tool set that allows for visualizations of delivered searches. So through the Elasticsearch search process that creates indexes and search indexes, those indexes can be brought in to the Kibana visualizer and displayed in a visualized form. This is a significant improvement over pivot grids, in my opinion. Pivot grids still have their place. However, if you've done a lot with pivot grids, you'll notice that there's quite a performance hit on them, and they don't work well with respect to large sets of data and lots of visualizations at one point. Kibana answers that question. Kibana is designed for much larger data sets. It's designed with the search engines already in mind, so you can use those right out of the box. It's really the way of the future. No additional licensing for Kibana. It comes delivered in your People Tools, and 858 is where that's why we ask about what tools release you're on. 858 delivers some key features on the functional side to bring in functional type visualizations that are basically delivered out of the box. In 857, you have some visualizations, but they're really more designed for system administrators and looking at bugs and performance and that sort of thing. In 858, you have the functional type of stuff here, and you can see, hard to see a little bit on the screen, but you can see kind of an AP use case here with things like vouchers by currency, sort by source, gross amount, and then you get some details down below. Okay, so that's the first one. Kibana is where Oracle is moving towards in terms of their technology. The second one is chatbots. If you haven't seen and heard about chatbots, here are the 3 chatbots that are delivered currently in the current tool set and current images. There's 2 on the HCM side for Absence Assistant and Company Directory, and on the financial side, there's 1 for Requester. There's many more coming. There will be a total of something like anywhere from 8 to 10 probably by the end of the year that are going to be delivered. There is some additional licensing that you have to go through to get access to these, and I'm happy to talk to you about that offline. But bottom line here is with chatbots is, again, if you think about the changing demographic in your organization, you really need to be considering where it's headed and what people want to use in terms of being able to access data and input transactions. This is not a use case for your core AP group or your core HR group, okay? This is not the use case. The use case is more your casual user, people who are need frequent, high volume requests that are easily answerable. You can automate that, and you should automate that. If you have staff that you pay to essentially take calls from people to answer repetitive questions, that's absolutely a candidate for chatbot, and it's something that you will find a return on investment if you can retool that person to doing other work. So it's something to consider. Again, this is where the technology is going with Oracle, and so it's something for you to consider in terms of your roadmap. That's it for the technology section, and we are happy to move towards the question and answer portion of our time. And I'm going to kick it back to Justin now.
Thanks, Cameron. If you have any questions, log them into the Q&A section or the question section of the webinar. I'm happy to see those. I'm not seeing them anything on my end, Cameron. Are you seeing any questions?
Yeah. Yep. No questions at this point. So feel free to jump in and type in any question.
Okay.
I'll ask you, maybe Justin. Both you and I have dealt with this internally. What are some of the challenges you see with putting together that champions team? What are some of the challenges, or maybe some of the best practices around that?
Well, I think enthusiasm is one of the things, and the way to grow enthusiasm, and which will uncover some of your champions if you haven't identified them within your organization yet, is just to learn more. You might even hold, you might promote one of CRMC's webinars and see who attends within your organization. Then you'll, instead of pulling them individually, you're casting a wide net out to all of your business and IT folks to see who attends these webinars. And they're, like I said, there's a grouping that are free, like this one. So from that, you'll be able to identify them and then start to foster those relationships and involve them on early stages or latter stages for that, or actively working roadmaps, right? So that's one thing that I do. There's many ways to do that, but again, communication and involving them early and often on all your projects is really how you grow, right? They're more interested if they have a say at the beginning, or at least knowledge at the beginning of projects, and understand the cool things that are coming, right? I always promote my projects for not how it's going to be disruptive for the organization, but rather what kind of cool things are out there. And so you show those champions that, and then they show others and build that excitement throughout the organization. So when you do your project, you've got people doing tasks on time and thoroughly. Testing is one, for sure. If your users aren't fully engaged or committed to the project, the quality of testing will be low, and hence when you move to production, not only will the move to production be poor and could be problematic, but also adoption, right? The success for any project is measured by its adoption. So those champions really come in handy there too, by really promoting things like web centers, dashboards. Gosh, there's just the activity guys are really cool, really useful things that folks that have been on the system for 10, 20 years, they're used to their old habits and don't care about pivot grids and some of the cool reporting and analytic tools that come packaged today. So those champions will help get you there. How about you, Cameron?
Yeah, I think you tend to, I think one of the challenges I've seen in the past is you tend to put your champions together with the cheerleaders. And I actually would say it's best practice, although it's a difficult road to go, but it's best practice to actually pull in some of your difficult customers as well, your difficult end users. So specifically, you have people that are always kind of complaining, whatever. Those people, sometimes they're just complainers, and sometimes they're actually people inside your organization who actually tend to sway public opinion. And so I try to identify the people that sway public opinion, whether it's good or bad. And you need to work closely with those. And so you need to pull those into your focus groups, your champions teams, because those are the people who really will make or break your implementation, your functionality rollout. Really understand their perspective and why. And sometimes people are difficult, and we all done that, where we've worked with people that are just flat out difficult, and you can't please them. But sometimes there's nuggets there that you can work through, and you can soften that a little bit and do that. So I would say, from my perspective, try to incorporate some of maybe the squeaky wheels too into your group, but balance it with, of course, people who are at a significant level in your organization that actually will end up being a champion for what you're trying to do.
Great.
We do have one question coming in, and it's related to how to identify customizations in your system. So thanks for that question, Nicole. And I never met you, but I see you're Fred Hutch. So I'm pretty familiar with all your customizations. Working there for 12 years, I was pretty familiar with all of them. But in general, there's a couple different ways. So first off, oftentimes there's some sort of documentation. There might be somebody that has a list. There might be some old functional requirements from a previous project or set of projects. That's always good. It's not comprehensive. The compare report is something that a system administrator can run that basically compares a pristine demonstration environment to your configured environment and customized environment. That compare report essentially dumps out a very long list of technical artifacts from your system that show the delivered pristine and the change, the delta. And that can be massive. It can be a massive document that then people have to go through. Or it might not be so bad if you don't have a lot of customizations. But it is the comprehensive way. The compare report is the comprehensive way to get to all your customizations. It definitely requires somebody to go through. So developers, system administrators, to catalog those customizations into components. Those components can then be grouped into essentially customization. Oftentimes, one customization to do something is really related more to the business requirement, not to, you want to think about the customization from respect to the business requirement. So we need, when we enter data, let's say a chart field, we want the component to react this way when we enter a chart field. Well, you probably want to put that on all the places where you enter a chart field. So instead of looking at each individual component that's customized, you want to think of that holistically. And so those are often grouped into projects in App Designer, but then that can then be pulled out into your documentation and then cataloged. And so again, technical tool, compare report, and then you want to pull that out into some kind of format that then can be grouped logically and can then be expressed in that form. So hopefully that answers your question, Nicole. Any other questions?
Cameron, we'll wait to see if anyone has anything else, but let me just quickly go to, we have an appendix with some additional items here. Let me just get control of that. Sorry, are you able to go to next? Okay. So here's our names, obviously meant to show at the end of the presentation, but we have some appendix items. I plugged in some key takeaways. Most of everything in here we've already covered, but once again, aligning the 3 Ps, the people, process, and platform. Planning is key for all of your road mapping and all of your projects, of course. Best laid plans, right? So business continuity, we didn't talk about business continuity, but very important it's actually, you know, could be coupled with your risk management plan, making sure that you're ready for the unexpected, especially when it's, you know, very highly and critical items like for go live, making sure you have backups. And one of the things business continuity does is backups for everything, right? For people, systems, everything, infrastructure, and then also even printers, right? As of recent, you know, a lot of us have been working from home, and not able to go into an office and where the printers reside and things like that. So really, really key. Or your printer's down, right? You have a single printer that cuts your checks either for AP and payroll. And once that goes down, you're stuck, right? And you're going to find that out when you're trying to cut some important checks, chances are. So important to have a contingency plan there, which is what's embedded in business continuity. As part of the roadmap that I provided, I did have some smaller projects that were completed ahead of time. Really important, you think about any cleanup efforts you have to do. One popular one is chart of accounts. Another one is suppliers and customers, making sure that's all cleaned up. These little efforts to remove duplicates or consolidate you know, records and things like that, and maybe simplify your chart of accounts wherever you can and consolidate chart fields. Really, really great stuff to think about before you start a major get current effort. Always considering other IT projects, so don't work in a vacuum within your corporate applications group, but rather cast a wider net across your enterprise applications, and make sure everybody knows your plans and make sure you know their plans, so you make sure that those resources are available when you need them, right, and not expected on other projects. End of life software and hardware relative to resource planning, strategize around quality assurance, change management. We talked about testing, I can't emphasize enough, training, of course. The SPEAR offers a variety of training, whether it's initial training or refresher courses and vision, gosh, anything PeopleSoft. And then cutover, right? Making sure you have a good strategy for cutover. You do your dry runs ahead of time before moving to production, very important, and making sure that cast is set as far as the players involved in that over the weekend, chances are move to production. Staying current, of course, you know, that's part of the reason why we're here today. Saying what current on what's happening with PeopleSoft, right? A great resource is Quest Oracle Connect community group, really excellent source of information. There's a number of others out there, but SPEAR also provides information on what's the latest and greatest. So keep plugged in to CRMC for that information as well. And then further leveraging PeopleSoft, right? It's looking at your entire corporate application library and footprint and saying, okay, and this happens everywhere I go, as far as where I've been employed at individual companies running PeopleSoft, or since I've been a consultant, everyone has those applications that are doing redundant things where PeopleSoft, either they're the best in class or maybe they've recently rolled it out in the last year or two. Very important you revisit what your application footprint is, what applications you're paying for and subscribing and supporting, both for individuals supporting those applications and infrastructure, right? It's a big cost. So really always make it a point to say at least once a year, take a look at your application footprint, say, you know, what are we using this for? When's the last time we looked at PeopleSoft to leverage like time and labor, or you know, a number of staffing, scheduling, or when's the last time we looked at them for purchasing and AP? And I mean, you know, it's the procure to pay in PeopleSoft is best in class. So really, you know, it's less effort for you, less cost for you to be managing multiple applications. We just ask that you know, you take a look at that, and we're happy to take a look at that for you. You know, you showing us a list of your entire library of applications and what purposes they serve, and then we pitch to you what PeopleSoft does and how you can eliminate those applications altogether. And they might even be pain points, right? And you always have to deal with their integrations into PeopleSoft and things like that. So it's just a lot of time and money and effort. and time spent on troubleshooting integrations for those applications. So really key. I can't stress enough how important it is to do those frequent reviews, and Spear's happy to help you facilitate those conversations. Okay, we're exactly.
Right, Justin, yeah, we're at time. So do we have any other slides you want to just mention, or are we good?
Yeah, I think there's some helpful links here, both with Oracle Quest or Quest community, as well as Spear. A lot of training. Kibana's in there, OCI, obviously demo services. We do demos all the time on various functionality. Free webinars we already talked about. There's decustomization outlined in here, continued learning, chatbots in here, and that's it. So take a look at these slides when we send them out later today, and feel free to share them in our contacts, and look forward to working with you guys someday. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Take care.